myself, what a wonderful what a wonderful.
Okay, so a couple years ago, I used to get bullied by these two girls. One of them was in my class and the other one was 2 grades above me, and they had a friend that I was, in quotes, friends with. Just keep that in mind because it's gonna be real useful later in the story. But she always switched up on me and stuff, and one day, the 2 girls, which were sisters, cornered me and they asked if I wanted to fight. I said no, and they kept bullying me, so I got in the fight with the friend. I dragged that hoe, and one day in the summer, I was coming home from somewhere with my friends and they pulled up on me with their little bikes and followed me home. So, they kept asking if I wanna fight, so I got tired of it and said yes. And my friend was like, I got the sister. So I said nah, I got this. And I waited for a little bit and my parents pulled up and said, get that bitch. I jumped off the porch and started to beat the brakes off that bitch, and her sister kept trying to break it up while she was crying, and I turned around and slapped that hoe. Then I slammed her sister in my mom's garden, and all I gotta say is she got what she deserved. They both did. Long story short, the little sister got in my class last year and said she beat me up, which is false, but I let her believe what she wanted. And by the way, their mom hit my mom with her car, and next day, I slashed their tires and threw rocks through all the windows in the car and cut their power cord or whatever. Okay, so I've lived in this house all my life, and one day these people lived next door. They were middle-aged people, like around my parents' age, and I didn't think they had any children until my parents invited them over for dinner, and golly holy moly smokes roly poly motherfucker, this hot-ass boy was there with them. Pretty much we ate dinner and my parents let us go upstairs for a little bit to get to know each other. When I tell you I was ready to fuck. And he could tell, but after having a long-ass conversation we kissed for a couple minutes and started taking off each other's clothes when he stopped and said he didn't want to do anything that quickly and that he'd rather get to know me face. With big pleading eyes. Like OMG, I was in love. That was last week and I'll update you on what happens. They're coming over for dinner soon again, grinning face with squinting eye. Okay, so one time I was at work and my boss came in my office and he asked me was I single. I said why. He said just a curious question. I said I'm okay, but yes I am. Ever since then he continued to ask me out on movie nights and all my favorite places. Mind you, IDK how he knows all these things. Most of my coworkers I had lunch with was complaining about him also, and he just kept asking. Next day I went to work. He kept insisting that I give him a hug every day in the morning before clocking in and heading to my office. Until he thought it was okay to touch my ass, and I punched him in the chin and proceeded to my office. After work that day I decided to go and talk to the police about it. The next day I came into work, and while I was on the way in, the police, with my boss in handcuffs, was on the way out. Comes to find out that was my boss's twin brother. He was arrested before for sexual assault and he killed my boss, and have been acting like him for a few months. When I was in 11th grade I met this boy named Ricky at a high school party, and we were vibing and chilling, and out of nowhere this girl comes and starts pushing me, saying why was I near her mans, and she started throwing cups at me and bottles, and Ricky grabbed me by the waist and kissed me in front of her and told me she has been toxic all their relationship. And the next day at school she tried fighting me, and I brought my older sister with me and we dragged her across the auditorium.
Okay, so one time in 7th grade I spent the night at my boyfriend's house, and we were night swimming and I had to use the bathroom, and realized I started my period. I was literally just 13, and started a few months before, and never knew how to use a tampon, so I was looking for one. Then I remembered he lived with his grandma who had already went through menopause, so FC I don't find anything, but I needed something, so me being the stupid effing genius, I went to the kitchen, and looked for a sponge. I found one. It was new and clean by the way, but cut the scrubby green side off, so I was just left with the yellow. Anyway, I went back to the bathroom and shoved it up my cooch. I went back and swam. I was gone for some time, so I told him I took a shit. Anyway, we were done swimming, and I went to take a dish sponge out of my cooch, and it was so far up there I was crying. And once I finally took it out, the inside of my coochie walls were literally so torn up it felt like Gordon Ramsay himself cut up some chicken. Anyway, I was in the shower crying BC I was in so much pain.
Basically, my older male cousin, let's call him Jason, was spending the night at my house when I was in 4th grade. At the time he was a junior in high school and had a girlfriend. So basically he was kinda getting all touchy and feely with me when we were watching Shrek in the living room. Fast forward to bedtime, everyone else was asleep, but I had to get some water. So I went into the kitchen as Jason was just coming out of the bathroom. I felt his presence as soon as he walking through the doorway to get into the kitchen. He wrapped his hand around my waist and the other he covered my mouth. I tried to scream but he didn't care. His hand let go of my waist and he took off his pants and took off mine. He kept kissing my neck and saying, "Shush, you like this," so I believed him and closed my eyes and waited for it to end. I never told anybody and to this day, I haven't come to terms with it.
One time when I was 5 or 6, a teacher found a pair of shitty underwear in the bathroom and all the teachers had to line up their students to find out which kid needed to be sent home. My teacher literally went round the class putting her hand into our pants to make sure we had underwear on. I'm still pretty traumatized from feeling her crusty dusty old woman hand in between my ass cheeks. Anyway, it got to the last kid in my class and my teacher put her hand in his ass and when she pulled her arm out it was covered in shit. The kid was crying, so was the teacher. One student threw up and I caused a chain reaction and everyone was throwing. It was so gross. The vomit smell was there for weeks.
In the 6th grade I transferred to a new school and didn't know anyone there. At orientation my teacher made me pair up with this boy. Let's call him Towel. Towel was acting super weird and nervous around me but I didn't say anything. A few weeks into the school year Towel was always texting me and trying to call me. His friends kept telling me he liked me but he was a gross little chicken bone skin tone Trump loving hat swinging spit drooling mouth breather white boy. He asked me out and I said no sorry. He was super depressed after that and tried again 5 more times. Poor guy was a hardcore simp and the final time he asked me out and I said no. He just waltzed out into the street and tried to get run over by the cars driving by the school. Fast forward to the last 2 months of the school year. I had kept my distance from him cause he was a weird little fuck that always tried to touch me in any way he could. I had math class with one of his friends and she told me that Towel was planning on kidnapping me. In middle school the popular kids went through this really fucking weird but kind of funny phase where they would scream so loud when they had to sneeze. This one girl was so loud, oh my god, she'd literally straight up scream before she sneezed. Like instead of the ah-ah-chew it'd be like a chew. On the first day of 6th grade I had a crush and he liked me back. He's been my boyfriend for 2 months. We met up at the park and he decided to kiss me. I kissed him back. The next day I asked my mom if my friend could come over. That was actually my boyfriend. She didn't know about him. Once he got to my house my mom said he was my cousin. I've been kissing my cousin.